And welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us a few moments of your time. I'm going to go ahead and kick off with this Power BI desktop training. So again, my name is Gio. I'm going to be running the PowerPoint deck as well as the live session. Kat is going to be our awesome moderator. Our agenda is going to be pretty simple. We're going to learn the building blocks of Power BI desktop and what makes it a little bit different than the service. We're also going to explore the data prep capabilities of Power Query Editor, as well as writing formulas to model our data. So just something super simple. We'll take something that already exists and pretty much bring that in as a measure. Also, we'll go and build a report from visualizing our data. So we will be able to do that live. And you will be able to show how to publish and save your report to the Power BI service. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a business analytics service that delivers insights for analyzing data. If you put it simply, it's a way to take information, to Tyler's point, where you're maybe speaking about people, and you could turn that information into a story with visualizations. So you can use a number of different charts, graphs, visualizations to help tell that story with the data that exists. So we're going to go through a very simple form of that today so you can understand kind of the art of the possible. Here we have Power BI Insights inside of Excel. So with a click of a couple buttons, you can bring in our reports, or from SharePoint lists, you can bring in information and start leveraging that Power BI directly inside of Excel. Although we won't be leaning heavily on Excel today, we will be bringing in a table into our desktop environment. It is also part of the Power Platform. So the Power Platform includes, of course, Power BI, which we are going to be working today, Power Apps, which lets you build apps in as little as, I've seen, 3 clicks, but you can have a fully flushed out and polished app in about an hour. You also have Power Automate, so you can get more done by automating some of the smaller tasks. My favorite flow is essentially you have every email that includes an attachment is automatically saved to your OneDrive. So that's my favorite flow. And Power Virtual Agents. So we're all familiar with those online chatbots when you go to, let's say, a big box retailer and you ask a question like, what is the closing time, or what are the specific inventory levels, you get a response. So with Power Virtual Agents, you can create that same experience internally and build those chatbots without having to have a coding background. So this is built for the citizen developers. Power BI is broken into 3 parts. You have Power BI Desktop, which Kat mentioned we are going to be working in today. Then you have Power BI Service, which is the online version of Power BI, and that is really where most users spend their time interacting and going through the reports. And then you have Power BI Mobile, so you can make those business decisions on the go. Now, when we talk about Power BI, you have your data sets, which are the raw information. And then you have your model, which is taken from data sets to build measures and to build relationships. And then the report is that finished product where you can see those visualizations and put them into use. So with that, I'm going to jump into my live environment. Let's go ahead. And we will start, for those of you that may not have the Power BI desktop application installed, you can head over to the Microsoft Store and you could search for Power BI up top. Power BI. I will let you know that the Power BI service is also installable as a desktop app. So I want to create a distinction there. You're looking for the Power BI desktop app, right? So there is a difference there. So here you'd be able to click install, and I already have it installed on my machine, so I'm going to close out of the store from here. So now that we have Power BI desktop open, we can jump back into what we have been working on, so we can get data, look at our recent sources, continue working on our previous documents that we had. So for instance, we had a Power BI level 250. We can keep working on that report. We can also take a look at other reports that may be saved onto my computer. If you're newer to the program and trying to feel out, what can I do? Where can I start? There's a couple of tutorial videos that will pop up the first time that you open up the app. And you do have the option to disable this, but I leave it on just because a lot of times it's people's first experience with the desktop app when they jump into our training. So here, again, you have creating a phone report, you have building reports, query view concepts, uploading your reports, and then getting started with Power BI Desktop. So just a couple of quick resources to get you up and running. Up top in the right, you can see which account is signed in. So if you happen to have maybe a dual PC where it's both for work and it's for personal use, and you want to make sure you're in the correct account, you can always check which account is signed in up top. So we're going to go ahead and click that little X to close out. And now we have a blank canvas. So from here, we can actually get started by importing data from Excel, a SQL server. We can paste data into a blank table. We could try a sample data set. So for those of you that want to either follow along or plan on, trying this out afterwards, you can click on this try sample data set. You also have the option to go up top here. So very similar to the rest of the Office suite, you have your tabs at the very top. So under the Home tab, you have Get Data. And if you click there, you'll be able to actually go ahead and see a drop down that will show you different types of data you can bring in. So an Excel workbook, a text file, a JSON file. So you have all these different data files, but it's also broken into types as well. So if you want a specific file, you could choose from here. If you want a database, here's some databases for you to choose from, both first and third party. If you want to leverage the Power Platform, you have Common Data Service, right? So that is now called the Microsoft Dataverse, but the acronym was CDS before. Azure, different online services, and then you have other, right? So this is where you can start to connect your data from, and you can also pull up some template apps. But again, if we're going to keep it simple, we're just going to click on Try Sample Dataset. Here we have a quick tutorial online if you wanted to just get some reinforcement. It teaches you step-by-step how to create a report, but that is what today's session is geared to do. So we're going to go ahead and load sample data. And once this is complete, we'll have a couple of choices. So we have two tables, well, really a table and a range. You can tell by the header up top here. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. So here you can tell that this is a table because it has the headers up top, and below is sheet 1, which is a range. You can actually preview this data as well. So if I were to click on this table, I could take a look and see what all of my columns and rows have as far as content. So if I maybe clicked on something that had a similar name, I could just make sure that it was the right one or just preview this. I can also go ahead and just check on this sheet. It's the same information, just presented a different way. To access the query editor, you can just click on the little checkbox next to the specific table we want to work with. And if the data is okay, you took a look at the preview and you're ready to rock and roll, you don't need to make changes. This is where you can begin to craft that visualization or those visualizations. And you would just click load. If you do want to make changes, which we are going to do, you're going to click on transform data. That's going to let you make some changes to the information before bringing it into Power BI. So here, I'll show you what exactly we're looking at. This is the same table, except we have a couple of indicators here. So we can see our column quality up top. It's showing that 100% of these entries in this column are valid. So nothing is empty. Nothing is, I don't have any broken formulas or anything like that here. And while in the Power Query Editor, you can take a look at your applied steps on the right. And this will just, because there is no undo or Control Z with this, if you do make a mistake or you want to change something back or remove a step, all you would need to do is click on the little X next to it, right? So again, we use the applied steps because you can't just hit Control Z or undo here. Let's go ahead and make some changes to our data, starting with our first column. There's so many ways to make the same type of change inside of Power BI, which really means whichever way is more convenient for you to remember is how you can do it. There's some ways that are very quick. There's some that are a little bit more involved. So here I want to go ahead and change the type of text here from standard, which is uppercase G and lowercase everything else, to all uppercase. I want my segment to really stand out, right? We'll right click on the column. And what I can do is I can go ahead and transform this column into uppercase. right? So now all of my segments in this column are uppercase. You can do the same thing if you wanted to go ahead and make it lowercase. So let's say you want a lowercase, you can capitalize each word. So if there were two words here, like channel partners, both would be capitalized. You could trim it, clean it. JSON, you have XML. So if you wanted to make any of these changes, you can. All right. You can also change the type of information that the column is expecting. So for example, I don't want to have decimals inside of my units sold because we only sell whole units. So let's say you were doing a head count. You only want to count full people. You would go ahead and remove any ability for a decimal to pop up. So what you could do here is you can also click on the column to highlight it. And before I right clicked on the segment column and I got those options. But remember, I had mentioned how many ways you could change the information. So if I go right up top to the top left, I can actually click on the decimal icon, the 1.2, and I could change it to, let's say, a fixed decimal number. So let's say I want dollar amounts. Let's say here. Or if I want something ABC, let's replace this step. There we go. If I want whole numbers, let's say I don't want decimals, I can switch it to whole numbers. I can replace the current step. And now it takes the decimals away. And if I want to remove a step, I can go ahead and just click on this X as I mentioned before, right? So let's change that. And we'll do fixed decimal so we have dollars for our actual units sold. So as far as manufacturing price, let's go ahead and make that dollars as well. As right now it's in whole numbers. So earlier I talked about just clicking on the 1, 2, 3 icon or the icon in the top left, but you can also highlight the column, head over to the top right where you can transform it. And then you'll see the data type under our any column here. So we can change this to fixed decimal as well. It's the same options that we saw before, but it's just in another place. So again, just another way for you to be able to change that specific column. Let's do this last one, our sales price, and we will go ahead and from the home tab, we'll show you the third way to change the type of data that is expected here. Right now it's a whole number, and we can go right up top to transform rather than clicking on the transform tab. You'll see a couple of quick options here. So again, the data type, I can change it to fixed whole number. So again, that's 3 different ways to change the type of information being shown here. So again, very easy to do. And again, you can utilize this to just quickly change your data, especially if, let's say, for instance, you're entering something like zip codes. If you are familiar with that, let's say you typed in something from Massachusetts, yours 02301 would not be valid. It would just put 2301, right? So you would normally change that column type to maybe just be general text, so ABC, so you can enter whatever you need to. All right, so let's move forward. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to cycle through your columns very quickly. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's say we wanted to go through choose columns. So here from choose columns, you can select which columns in your data set you want to keep. So for example, we don't use the discount band. And if there was any other columns that we wanted to remove from this data set before bringing it into Power BI, you can go ahead and choose which ones to keep. Alternatively, if you have a very large data set and you wanted to either go to a specific column, you can actually click on the drop down and you can select go to column. Now, this is going to be used when you have, again, let's say you have 150 columns. Scrolling 150 columns over could be, it's very time consuming. However, if you knew the title of your column, so let's say if it was sales, I can start to just jump straight to the point and type in which particular column I want. And let's say I click on sales and hit OK. It will jump straight to that column. So when you're working with very large data sets, you can go ahead and use this drop down here and then go to column to jump straight to a column. Switch this over. There we go. Get our sales in there and our dates are good. All right. A couple other tools that you have access to. So underneath your view tab, this is where we can actually turn off the column distribution and the column quality. So up top, you could see these bars. So I have 559 distinct entries here. So I have essentially 559 individual numbers that have been added, with 418 of them only appearing once. So this just tells me how many unique values are entered. But you can also turn that off with your column distribution and your actual column quality options here. So if you wanted to just change up some of the information that was shown, maybe you're going through it and you don't want to see that, it's confusing you, you can go ahead and remove those there. So again, all I did was just go to view and you can toggle these off. Once you're done making your changes in your query editor, you can go ahead and you can publish your data. So let's go ahead and click on home and we'll close and apply. So it's going to go ahead in the background and load all the changes that I've made. And now we can take a look at the financials table in our fields over to the right. So now for those of you that have not used Power BI in the past, right now we can start by choosing a visualization and dragging it into our canvas here. So we have all these visualizations. We can also go ahead and click on the ellipses to get more. Some of these are premium. So here, again, we can look at some that are going to be included, some you would need to pay for. So chiclet slicers, Gantt, advanced cards. And if you needed to download any new ones, you can go right through here to get them. If you want to use what's already in here, let's say, for instance, we wanted to bring in a stacked bar chart or a clustered column chart, we can click on it and it will send it into our canvas. And again, we can drag and drop. So this part of Power BI is very similar to PowerPoint. So you get your grid lines that tell you if you're near the halfway mark. So right here, I'm halfway in the canvas. And if you wanted to follow along, this is halfway across, right? So this is centered and up to the center if we're counting it vertically. To remove a visualization, we can just click on a visualization and hit delete, and it will remove it out of our canvas. So again, that is just one way to bring in a visualization. Now, it didn't do anything because I didn't assign any fields to it for it to measure or visualize. So one thing I love about Power BI is that you can actually, let's say we want to drag sales and we want to drag it into our canvas. Power BI will go ahead and pick the visualization that makes the most sense based on the field that you just brought into it. So if I brought in something, let's say, for instance, country, it just makes sense that if I'm using something that's geographical, that it's going to bring in a map, right? Just like it brought in that bar chart because I brought in sales. And again, we could just highlight the visualization and remove them. You can also create your own measures. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to just reorganize some of the fields or create a new measure. What we can do is we can go up top to our modeling and we can select a new measure. So this is where we can write a formula. And let's say, for instance, we want to tally up our profit or something of that sort. So we would just name it. So let's say we'll call this one money earned. Started just like you would Excel with equal and then sum. And you can write out the formula here. But it also can pull different aspects of the original table or the original data set that I brought in. So here I can just bring in profit, and essentially this is just going to be renaming it. All right. So again, we're just going to close our parentheses and we'll find a new measure called money earned in our fields now. So if I wanted to grab money earned, drag it into the canvas, I can now see our profits just for that measure that I created. So that's one way to quickly create a measure. We could also bring in new tables. So let's say, for instance, we wanted to bring in just an alternative to our dates. We do have dates here. So if I wanted to bring in an alternative, what I can do is I can go to modeling, start a new table. And this one is going to be, let's say, dates and we'll use calendar auto. And this will just pull our whole calendar here. And then I've created a new table up top now. Now, this can be confusing for somebody trying to create a visualization because I have dates right here, which pulls up a date hierarchy. And I also have date down here. So I'm going to show you how you can hide certain fields or connect them together. So here we can head down to look at our model data in the left rail here. And these are the two tables that I have. So if I wanted to, use multiple tables or just move some around, you can just be able to move them by clicking and holding. But right now I want to draw the distinction or the connection between the two dates. So let's say we just drag and drop one field from a table onto another one to build that relationship. And let's go ahead and hide the second one. Let me find it real quick. Here it is. So to hide a field, which would make it not appear in your fields when you're working with the data. So there's two different views. When you're in the actual modeling view, you can see all of the fields, even the ones that you hid, right? So if you accidentally hide one, you can come back and unhide it. So just hitting the eyeball will hide it. And you'll also see in the fields to the right when it's expanded that field date has a strike through on it. Right. So again, you can go ahead and just, OK, I know that's hidden because I have this one here. So no one can confuse the two, even though they're very similar and just pretty much based on each other. If you ever want to take a look at the raw data that you brought in, you can always click on this table icon and it'll just show you all the raw data that we have as well. So all of the different rows. And that is based off of the dates that I had selected. And if I click on financials, that particular table will show up all of the financials as well. So we can see all the units sold. We see the manufacturing price was broken down into dollars, sales price, and then gross sales. You can also rename the table. So if you maybe had a name that didn't make too much sense, you can go ahead and rename it there. And with that, let's go ahead and we'll build our first visualization. So the first thing we're going to build is I want to make a map that's going to show off our segments and just how much money each segment made based off the country. So again, there's one of two ways you can do it. You can either grab your first field and just drag it into the canvas, or if you have an idea of what you want, like I know I want a map, I can click on map and then just kind of move it to where I need it to be. So let's say here. There it is. And then a quarter of the way up. And there it is. So those grid lines really help keep things aligned. One thing I will tell you, a mistake that I've made in the past, is just, this is more of a time saver. Whenever you go to add another visualization, and I'll double back to this in just a second. Whenever you go to add another visualization, make sure you click off the one that you're on currently. So right now you can see the outline, which lets me know that I'm currently in this map visualization. So if I wanted to add another, make sure to click off. Because if you were to just go to your visualizations pane and grab or click on a new one, it would change what was actually highlighted, right? So this just changed it to a pie chart. And now we're back to a map. So let's drag and drop our first field. There's a couple ways to do it. You can either drag it and drop it onto the visualization and let Power BI do the work for you, or you can use these boxes right here to insert your fields. So let's say, for instance, we'll do one of each, right? So location, we're going to grab our country field and we'll add that. So it automatically throws it onto our map. All of our fields that have locations or countries are now populating. And if I zoom in, I can see that it's France, Denmark. Actually, that's Germany. Germany, yeah. And you can actually move the map from within as well. Now, as far as our legend, if I wanted to break it down by segment just to see how much each segment has made, this is where we can go through our fields, find our segment, and I could just drag it over our legend. And you'll see a legend pop up over the top, just showing the different colors and what they represent. Right now, there are no values, so it's not measuring anything. So everything's even. I wish I could see this a little better. All right, it's still tiny, but it'll be better once we start throwing in our values for it to measure. So to do that, we can go to, let's say, something along the lines of money earned, right? Money earned, and we can add it to the bubble size, which is this expecting a field where it's going to essentially scale up or down based off of how much or how large the amount is, comparatively speaking to the others. So right now, money earned, we can either drag it here or we can drag it onto our visualization. And now we see that the pie charts have formed, and we could tell how much revenue has been made. So Europe has made significantly more than the Americas. However, if I scroll in a little bit further, we can see based off of the segments what exactly is moving over here. So government is more than 60% of Germany and France. So those are maybe two areas I would like to focus on if I was just, quickly creating this visualization for later. Let's go ahead and work on our next one. And remember what I had said about making sure that you click off a visualization, because if I went to go click on something else, it would just change that visualization, right? And that's just a mistake I've made so many times. So just click into an open space and you'll see that, this is no longer highlighted, and I can bring in my next one. So we'll bring in a waterfall chart. It kept the same size, but you can resize it if you'd like, as my last visualization. So if I needed more or less space, I can just resize it however I need to. Money earned, and then trying to get our date to be our actual categories. Okay, now it works. In the Power BI level 100 training, we do go through how to drill through your data and drill down. So it breaks down your data. So right now we're looking at 2014 and 2013. But if I wanted to focus more on 2014, what you can do is you can actually either click on 2014 and it will apply that filter to all of your visualizations in the canvas, or you can right click on it and you should see the option to show next level, or you can click on the double arrow down and it will drill down that visualization. So right now we can see Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, but it's all pertinent to 2014, right? So this is how we'll leave this here, but you can go down another level. As long as there's more levels to your data, you can go one step further. So this is Q1, where it's pulling up the date month, right? So January, February, March. Actually, it's just pulling up all the months. You can also drill up by clicking up, and it will just go up one level. So rather than showing every month, it's going to show the quarters. And if we go up again, rather than showing the quarters, it'll show the years. And let's bring in a matrix just so we can we'll throw in maybe two more visualizations, and we'll talk about how you can customize the mobile look. Because remember, there's three parts of Power BI. There's the Power BI service, the desktop that we're working on. Let's say, for instance, I just want to be able to, let me get in here. We'll create this. I want to see just the money earned, and this is prefaced for later, so don't focus on this too much now. Just the money earned and maybe the title. We can create that mobile experience. We can see what that would look like. So that's what we'll do after these next couple of visualizations. So remember that trick I taught you. Just make sure you click off. That way you're not accidentally changing this visualization that I've already set up. So here we can go and we can bring in a matrix. There we are. You can also see if you're overlapping on visualizations. So again, as we were moving this around, we could see that, okay, I met the edge of another visualization right here. So if I were to drag and drop further, I'm going to start overlapping. So that helps you out as well. Make sure this is good. There we are. And we bring in our data. So for instance, if I wanted to see, what do we have? Products here. So products will be our rows, right? We could see Amarilla, Carretera, Montana, Paseo, Velo, and VTT. These are the different products. And let's say you were using a visualization for productivity or people, you would do something like each individual, if that was what your table was about, each individual and how much they've contributed and so on and so forth. So let's say, for instance, we wanted to bring in the profits. We can go ahead, and for the values, we can bring in profit. And now we just have a breakdown of the product and the profit that it made. If we wanted to add columns, individually breaking it down, we can also just bring in our dates, right? So this is going to be 2014. And again, we can go ahead and drill down. Let's actually activate it real quick and click that. And now this is showing all 4 quarters of 2014 rather than just that year. So this is just a quick way to kind of break down and have a visual look. You can customize the way this appears as well. So if this all white and these dark colors are just a little harder to follow, you can just go over to your bar chart icon with the paintbrush, and that's how you can format a visualization. We won't spend a ton of time here. However, this is where you can change some of the styles. So let's say I want a minimal style. This is very, very simplistic. If I wanted bold headers, you can just quickly choose templates here. But as you move further down, you can actually manually tune all of this. So if you wanted, company correct headers, you can choose the specific colors you would like and the specific styles that you would like. So here again, just going through the different style presets that exist, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. But it does make it easier to consume the data because it's not just this white background that's kind of hard to follow. The last visualization I want to show you is a very, very cool one called Q&A. You saw it when I accidentally double clicked in the canvas, but here you see the Q&A icon. It just looks like a chat bubble. When you click on that, you can ask questions of your data or just take some of the recommendations that Power BI's AI has kind of pulled up for you. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to see revenue. So top countries by money earned. This was the field that I created. Let's say we selected profit. Let's go ahead and switch it out. So we have, what is the money earned by country, top segments by money earned. We can click this to show all suggestions, and it's just pulling different bits of data from our fields, right? So it's just leveraging what it can tell and what the AI has come up with. And what's cool about it is, let's say I wanted to look at top countries by money earned, and I clicked on that. It just pulls up the overall revenue for all of these countries. But the reason I'm showing you this is it's really cool to look at it and have these types of details told to you by Power BI, but you can turn it into a visualization with this icon right here. So it looks like just a rectangle turning into another rectangle. And what it means is that this can be turned into a visualization. So we'll do that. As we click there, we now have the money earned by country visualization. All right, give it a name. Let's say right here, we can insert a standard text box. And this one's pretty normal. You just type in a title for it, choose your font, choose whether it's bold, italicized, centered, right aligned, left aligned, if it's bulleted, and so on and so forth. So say we'll call this one world revenue, right? We're gonna go ahead and make it bold. Maybe make it a little bit smaller, 60, so it fits on one line. And we can resize the text box so we can add more visualizations or be able to change it, right? So if we needed to add more text, there's different ways that you can do that, okay? Now, we did talk about the format. You can go ahead and click on this text box and also format it here. So if you wanted a title, it's just going to be some smaller text that will appear above that standard text that I had. So if I wanted to add something, this is where I can do that. So let's say this is title. You'll see the word title show up. So if you wanted to really customize that, this is where you can go to really do that. So now we are going to switch gears. We're going to talk about what it looks like to customize some of this to better fit mobile, or if I only need maybe the money earned by country and segment to show up for somebody that's on the go, and the rest of the report will show up for everybody else that's either using the service or the desktop app, we can do that. So what we do is up top, we can look through our tabs and we click on view. There's a couple of options here. So you have options to snap to grid, locking objects, grid lines if you're trying to align things perfectly. You can quickly change the theme of your report. So here, this will just change all of the visualizations in one go. This drop down lets you see more themes. So if you wanted to go ahead and let's say you wanted this dark theme here, you can go ahead and just choose from some of the other themes. So for those of you that may not be, graphic designers and you just want to leverage and lean in on themes, it's got you covered. So you don't have to, just use the basics like I have right now. But we're going to look at the mobile layout, right? So right up top, we see mobile layout. And here's all the visualizations that were in my original report, right? So here, money earned by country. I want to say this was money earned by quarter, and then money earned by country in a bar chart, right? So I can grab one of these visualizations and bring it into this demonstration phone and just resize it. Now, let's say, suppose you wanted to resize the text so it looked better on mobile. you can start to see that, right? So if you wanted to change it, you have your properties here. You can change the height, you can lock the aspect ratio, change the positioning, but you can also go back to the visualization and change the size of the text so it's a little bit smaller. And remember, I only wanted people to be able to see the map on the go. So let's go ahead and we'll grab that visualization and we'll resize it. So revenue earned by country and segment. So while people are on the phone, they are going to be able to just navigate this this map and be able to essentially look and make those decisions of whatever your information that you brought into the report is going to be, right? So whether it's a list of people and how they performed, or whether it's a list of resources and how much is left, inventory management, things like that, right? But they can have access to this on the go. The last little bit we wanted to touch base on, let's close this out. So we just click on mobile view again, and it takes us back to the standard view. Notice nothing here changed because I didn't do anything to the actual report. I only went to the mobile view. We want to touch base on the performance analyzer. So this is going to tell you if anything inside of your report is just taking a long time to load. Maybe one of the connectors is down or something is not, properly formatted and it just takes longer. So what we can do is we can click on this button and you'll see the start recording, right? And this will just benchmark how long, or it will test how long every single one of these visualizations takes to refresh. So we can click refresh visuals and it just counts it. So every 1000 ms or milliseconds is going to be 1 second. So everything here in my report took less than half a second to refresh. Some of it was, this is pretty much instantaneous because there was nothing here. It's just text, right? But some of the report information that I was pulling, like the matrix, that took a little bit less than half a second. And the more extensive your data is, the longer it could take. But this gives you an idea of what exactly is making, let's say you have a report that just takes, a whole minute to refresh. You can see exactly which visualization or what is causing that to happen. All right. So last, and to close out, and I know I'm going to circle back and touch base on creating measures. The last couple of things I want to touch base on is if you needed multiple pages, because right now we were working within this canvas, but let's say I wanted to have another set of visualizations in this report, I can just go ahead and click on this plus in the bottom right to add a new page. It's very similar to Excel where you would add a new sheet. And if you wanted to rename it, you can just right click on it and either duplicate it or you can rename it. So if you wanted to maybe make a copy of this, the first page, and then rename it and change some of the filters or parameters, you can do that, right? We'll delete that second page because we don't need it. There it is. All right. And then when it comes time to sharing it, you have the ability to publish this report to Power BI and select your work group. So let's say we publish. We want to save the changes. Yes. So here's my workspace. You can think of this as your Office 365 groups. So let's say we want to mark a project team. There it is. A lot of times you can search a team that you're a part of and share this report to those folks. Just make sure if you're using a connector that they have access to that connector as well. But within this workspace, they'll be able to view this report. All right, so we've got it. And now this is fully published, ready to rock and roll. I just want to show how we created that new measure because I know somebody had mentioned that they didn't see money earned. So what I did is under our modeling tab, I just created a new measure. You also have quick measures here. And this is, you can think of it as formulas in Excel, right? That's actually, I don't want it there. Select the right table. So make sure you have the right table selected, and then we can go to new measure. And we'll call this one demo. So you give it a name, and then when you hit enter, you can either do sum or anything that you see here. So you have search, sum X, summarize column, summarize. I just had sum. And then right here, it's just pulling fields. And I just kept it simple. So I went ahead and just did gross sales, right? Or profit, I think is what I chose. And I closed it out. We just created that quick measure, and now we'll see it in this table. So that demo, if we wanted to, let's say, for instance, if I wanted to drag that in here, it would just pull in that visualization, and it's measuring the the gross sales is what it's measuring. Well, that is all of the content that I had for you. It's an exciting platform and it's great for telling stories, especially when it comes to, let's say, hopping on a call and explaining something, because all of your visualizations can reflect each other. So for example, if I was speaking on France, I could just click on France and everything will just update on my visualizations will update to reflect France specifically. Same with Canada. And to remove something, I could just click on it again and it takes it away, right? If I wanted to focus on Q4, it would just show me Q4 across the board. And it also broke down to show me October, November, and December. So it's really focusing on Q4. So while you're having a conversation, that's what helps guide that and helps you tell that story. On the Power BI service, you can actually go into full screen as well. So if you wanted to go full screen, take away all the fields, to even better tell your story, you can do that as well. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. It was a pleasure leading this session. Thank you, everybody. Be well.